Hi, I'm Andrew Jones, Chief Loudspeaker Designer for MoFi Electronics, and this video is to show you how to do the upgrade from the regular SourcePoint 10 to the new SourcePoint 10 Master Edition. You have already received the upgrade kit that contains a pair of crossovers and 2 foam bungs which you can use to put in the vent to change bass tuning depending on your location of the loudspeaker with respect to your room boundaries. But what I'm going to show you primarily is how do you replace the crossover. First thing we have to do is take the front driver out and remove the clip-on wires to that drive unit. And to do that, Phillips screwdriver. There is a small screwdriver included in the kit, but you may prefer to use a easier to handle bigger screwdriver. I'm going to start here and go counterclockwise, and I'll leave this one in for the moment and you'll see why in a minute. I'm using a regular screwdriver. I'm being very careful with the removal so I don't puncture the cone or damage the speaker. So I would recommend not using power tools. Use a regular hand screwdriver. Now I'm also just placing the screws on the table I'm working on. Might be a better idea to put them in somewhere where they won't roll off. Okay, next to last one. And you can see this is why I've left one in at the top. As I do this second to the last screw, the drive unit is moving forward, so it gives something to hold when you remove the last screw. So hold on to the drive unit, unscrew that. See, that's what you're not supposed to do. I'll probably leave that in. That's why you have to be very careful. Okay, so I'm going to put that down. Now, this is the drive unit. You can see the wires attached to it on push-on tags, base section. So we're going to press in just behind the clip with your thumbnail, and that releases the catch, and then you just pull straight off. It won't come off unless you release that catch. That's the woofer. Do the same for the tweeter. Not always easy. So there we go, taking the drive unit off. You'll notice, I'll tell you now and also repeat when I put it back together again, tweeter wire is blue and it has tweeter written on it. Woofer wire is red, so you need to make sure you get them onto the correct terminals on the drive unit when you put it back together again. Now, let's turn the speaker around. We have to remove the crossover. Okay, we have to remove the terminal panel. These are Allen head screws, so we're going to use an Allen screwdriver. You'll be supplied with one that exactly fits these screws. It's in the kit. Make sure you separate them out from the screws I just took out of the drive unit. Don't mix them up. Last one. And just lift it out. Now you'll notice the wires, the input wires to the crossover are clipped onto the terminals. So again, squeeze and pull off. Squeeze, squeeze. You will not need this terminal plate. It will be replaced in the new crossover. This version is an earlier version. The crossover is mounted inside on these clips, and it can be left inside disconnected. You know, if you're having trouble getting your hands in and trying to pull that out, it's okay to leave it in. The new crossover will fit in even with that in there. But for completeness, I'm going to take it out. Now, it's either held with nylon standoffs, or alternatively, it is held with screws. So you either use a screwdriver to release it, or in this case, the clips. So squeeze the clips, pull the crossover out, squeeze the clips, pull the crossover out, and pull the wires through from front to back. So that's the old crossover, won't need that any longer. Okay, now we fit the new crossover. See, it's substantially different from the current crossover. All but one of the inductors is air core. The laminated steel core is a substantial size, and that's just for impedance compensation in the base. Capacitors are all metallized polypropylene film, not polyester, with non-magnetic lead-out wires. There is only one capacitor that is electrolytic, again, for the impedance compensation. And the resistors are all metal film, non-magnetic. LF circuit on one board, HF circuit on the other. So appreciable upgrade and better wires. So to fit this in, we're going to put it in and feed the wires back over the central brace, and you'll have to feel your way through. We're going to push them through towards the front chamber to connect to the driver. If you've got small hands, makes it easier, but they're going to go above that brace and just feel through the gaps and push it through till you can feel it's all at the front. And I think I've done it, and the way to check is to look from the other side. But first I'm going to screw this in. Make sure you've got the orientation right, terminals at the bottom, switch, which is new, at the top. Going to hold it in with the center screws first, make sure it's all bedded in, and then start. Put that in. And then we do the others. And I put the screws in first, and then put the screwdriver to it, because these are cap screws and they're a bit more secure. When I screw in Phillips screws, and I'll show you when I do this, I prefer to put the screwdriver tip to the screw first and then put it into the cabinet. So we've now got that located. We can turn it around. And we see, if we feel through there, we just pull that damping material, feel in, find one wire, find the other wire. So now we have both wires, we can push this back in place. And as a final point, for when I removed the crossover, you notice it's all built onto the back of the terminal panel. Some of the later SourcePoint 10s were also built that way, with the original crossover, instead of being mounted inside the cabinet, were mounted to the terminal plate. So when you're working on a speaker that's built that way, as you remove the terminal plate, the crossover just comes with it. So much easier to do the replacement. Okay, so now we have wires. We have our drive unit. We need to put them back together again. So make sure you get the right wires to the right drive unit, tweeter and woofer. Now, if you look carefully at the basket, it's marked tweeter. These blue wires, blue and black, also marked TW for tweeter. So that goes to the tweeter. Hopefully you can't go wrong. So we put these back, clip that on, clip that on. Now for the woofer. The thin blade goes on. The wide blade goes on. And now we're set to put it back into the cabinet. We just offer it in like that. Make sure the wires are not behind the driver. We put it in and we rotate until the screw hole lines up with the cabinet. We hold it in. We put one screw, we get it started. And just be careful, don't do what I did earlier. Get that screwed in. Now we can work on all the others. So push it, put the screw in. Okay, now it's secured, it won't move. And now one by one, we put the screw onto the screwdriver. We keep hold of it. We put it in and hold the screwdriver close to the tip so there's no possibility of doing what I did before. And I like to go sort of diametrically opposite when I put these together. Okay. And the last one. Okay, so that's it. That's done. That's all that's required to upgrade the SourcePoint 10 to the SourcePoint 10 Master Edition. But I also want to bring to your attention, I pointed out that we now have a switch on the back. The original SourcePoint did not have a switch. This is a treble or tweeter level switch. High, medium, low, going from right to left. In the high position, the overall sound balance is similar to the original SourcePoint 10. You know, the crossover changes make a substantial improvement to the overall sound quality, but the tonal balance in the higher end in this position is similar to the original. So why can we adjust it? Well, when we put a loudspeaker in a room, what we hear of the sound is the sound direct from the speaker and the sound reflected back to us from the room. And rooms have different characters. Some rooms are very lively, sparse furniture, no drapes, no carpets. Some are very heavily furnished, and some are in between. And that affects the kind of the higher end response and how bright the speaker might sound in that room. And I cannot know in designing what your room is. So this is a way, rather than just thinking of it as a tonal switch, oh, I like a lot of treble, oh, I don't like much treble. It's more to match it better into the characteristics of the room in which you're listening. So if you've got a bright room, you can turn it down. If you've got a dim room, you can turn it up. Or depending on what angle you end up positioning the speaker with respect to the listener, to listen off axis and change the sound field, the image, you can partially compensate that by adjusting the switch. So ultimately it's down to you as to what the sound is that you prefer, but it does give you that extra degree of control. And there we have it. That's the process to upgrade from SourcePoint 10 to SourcePoint 10 Master Edition. I wish you all the best in enjoyment of the new speaker and many years of happiness. Thank you.